Hello, everybody! Happy Wednesday? Is it Wednesday? Fuck knows. Does time even matter anymore? Anyway, so lockdown is quite clearly sending me round the bend because I voluntarily rewatched Rise of Skywalker last night. Why do I do these things to myself? No one made me do it. I wasn't being held at gunpoint or anything. I actually sat down and decided, you know what? I want to rewatch Rise of Skywalker. I think it was because I wanted to see if it was as embarrassing as I remember it being. Because I remember going to the cinema, I went to see it on my own, and I remember thinking, I'm really glad I'm seeing this on my own, because if I was seeing this with other people would look at me like, you're the nerd who likes all this stuff, this is your fault. Because that has happened to me before when I've convinced people to watch particularly bad episodes of Doctor Who. And surprisingly, I enjoyed it a bit more the second time. Which is weird, because normally you enjoy films more when you're in the cinema, when you're like locked in this room and you're only looking at the screen and only able to take in that experience, and you haven't got anything to distract you. Maybe it was because I knew that I could leave at any point without looking like a fanboy throwing a public hissy fit. Anyway, so I was tweeting along while I was watching it, and we're going to go through all of the things that I was thinking about while I was watching it. Alright. The first problem I had with it came within the first couple of minutes, in the title crawl, which is easily the shittest title crawl in the entire Star Wars saga. Like, previous title crawls have been there to set the scene and, offer bits of contextual information which will end up coming out in dialogue eventually, but in this one, it literally just says, Palpatine has returned, Rey is doing her Jedi training, Kylo Ren is looking for the planet of the Sith. All of which you pretty much see on screen in the first 10 minutes anyway, and you can kind of pick it up immediately, so what the fuck was the point of that then? Because after those opening 10 minutes where we basically see all three of the things that the title crawl said, we get a 10-minute long exposition dumping scene, which is full of characters just saying things about the film that we're about to watch, which I was just thinking, why couldn't this have been in the title crawl? Like, this is literal dialogue here. Somehow, Palpatine has returned. Dark science, cloning, secrets only the Sith knew. This is actual dialogue spoken by characters. Okay, so easy way to fix this. Delete this scene entirely, just dump all this exposition in the title crawl, start the movie by sending our characters to the Sith planet Exegol. That way the title crawl serves a purpose and it doesn't sound like you're just having characters spoon-feeding us exposition. Oh god, those first 10 minutes though, they were just dire, weren't they? We got this opening 2-minute sequence where Kylo Ren is killing some people on a planet somewhere where he's gonna, find the Sith Wayfinder to get into the planet of the Sith or something. And, like, he's killing a bunch of people, then he's killed everyone, and then he stops, and then just sort of looks around, and it implies that he's been looking for this Sith Wayfinder, and then he just sees it over there. So then he goes to the planet of the Sith, and he's searching for Palpatine, and he goes down into this chamber where Palpatine's got loads of Snoke clones or something, and this could have been nice and dark and atmospheric. It's a really nice set, it's really gloomy and moody. But the problem is, the scene is only about 3 minutes long. The whole thing's edited like a trailer. It goes so quickly, so I don't feel any atmosphere or tension to it. Palpatine even talks entirely in trailer quotes. He's saying things like, "You will join me on the throne of the Sith. You will search for the other one, but beware, she is not who you think she is." Then again, maybe they wanted to get this scene over with quickly, because this is where they dump the fact that Snoke was a clone. Like, honestly? I mean, in Last Jedi, I was thinking that maybe Snoke isn't actually dead, and this movie's going to bring him back in some clever way, but instead it just dumps the fact that he was a clone in the first 10 minutes, and oh, we've got Palpatine back again. Like, the entire point of the sequel trilogy should have been, okay, we've got all of our old characters in here, we got Han, Leia, Chewie, etc. We're handing everything on to the next generation. We're going to set up these new villains. We got Snoke, the First Order, and it starts to set up new things over the first 2 films, but then in the last one it just ditches it and goes, here's Palpatine, do you remember Palpatine? And in the first 10 minutes we've got them playing the monster chess and just let the Wookiee win. Yeah, do you remember the monster chess? I remember the monster chess, so therefore this film is good. And to spite myself, it did kind of work a little bit. I do still love the way that Chewie speaks in grunts and characters respond to him in English as if they're just having a normal conversation. It's like, Yes, I know, Chewie, that is a very interesting piece of information. Oh, but the one thing that really bugs me on the nostalgia front in this film, though, is the way they used Leia. And it breaks my heart to say it, but every scene with her in this film is dreadful. Like, you'd think that maybe I wouldn't be thinking that every scene with her is really stilted and off-putting if I didn't already know that Carrie Fisher is not around anymore. But no, even if I didn't know that, Leia's entire presence in this film is fucking weird and off-putting. Because every scene with her in has clearly been written around the fact that we have a very limited amount of phrases that we can have Carrie Fisher saying for us. It's like I can see them cutting and pasting times that Carrie Fisher has said the words yes, or tell him, or you will know into the timeline, and nothing about her presence in this film works. There's this really awkward cutaway bit where we're doing a chase sequence and all of our characters land in this pit of quicksand, and oh my god, they're sinking in the quicksand. And then it cuts away to some characters talking to Princess Leia and saying, "Oh my god, we've lost contact with Rey and Finn and everyone." And she just says, "Can't you be more optimistic?" And the scene lasts about 30 seconds, and then it cuts back to our characters in the quicksand, and I'm just thinking, okay, that is clearly a deleted scene from a previous film. And the reason it was deleted is pretty fucking obvious because it serves no purpose. Like, that scene is fucking horrendous. It breaks the flow of the action, and there's no reason for it to be there other than we have to have Princess Leia in this film to give it some sort of consistency with the other ones. And I know this isn't the movie maker's fault. Like, the production issues with this film are worn very much on its sleeve. You know, Carrie Fisher is not around anymore, that is sad, but to be honest, I just couldn't help but thinking, just write her out in the title crawl and start the film with like characters talking about, oh my god, we lost Princess Leia at the Battle of something or other. Just that would have been a more fitting tribute than just watching characters interact with a literal ghost on film. It's just creepy, and it takes me out of the film every time she's on screen. There's this one scene later on where Rey and Kylo Ren are having this lightsaber battle on the ruins of the Death Star, and then it cuts away to a bunch of characters talking about Princess Leia. They're talking about her, and we can see her. There's this character who goes, Leia is going to use all her power that she has left to reach her son. And this is so off-putting, it takes you out of the film, because I'm just thinking, okay, the only reason that Leia is not saying this herself is because Carrie Fisher is not around anymore. It reminds you of this every single time. Just Hollywood, please don't do this again. It's depressing. While we're on the quicksand though, can we talk about all of the really shit contrivances that this film has to just introduce a character from a previous film? Like the bit where Rey, Finn and Poe run into Lando. It's just like, we just so happen to run into Lando. And he knows where this dagger, which is going to lead us to the Sith Wayfinder, is. It's so contrived. It's like a bad Star Wars tie-in video game. Oh look, here's a character from a previous film and he knows where our next objective marker is. Oh god, and the quicksand bit. Okay, so we do the chase sequence. They're running from some stormtroopers or something, and the chase sequence is actually quite good. The movie does still look as good as ever. It's just so contrived and really just okay. So they just so happen to land on some quicksand, which just so happens to lead them down to this cave system, where they're just going to stumble across this dagger, which leads them to the Sith Wayfinder. It's just so contrived and really a massive leap. But then we get to probably my favourite scene of the film, where Rey faces off against Kylo Ren in his TIE fighter. This is probably my favourite scene of the film because it's the only point where the film actually slows down at any point and lets you actually take in what's going on screen. The scenes between Daisy Ridley and Adam Driver are really good because, you know, I gave a shit about these characters. They had built them up over the course of the first couple of films, and they are really good actors, so, you know, that's something. But then the film gives you Rey trying to stop this ship that Chewie's been taken on. She's trying to stop the ship from flying off into space with her force powers. And I'm just thinking at this point, why does Rey need Jedi training? Like, she is so overpowered. Like Luke had a problem with lifting an X-Wing out of a swamp. And here's Rey trying to stop a spaceship from blasting off, and she's so powerful that it explodes. It's just like, why does she need Jedi training? She's the most fucking powerful Jedi ever. Anyway, so it's at this point where the movie gives itself so much to do. It's okay, we've got the Sith dagger, and it's got Sith writing on it, which is going to lead us to the Wayfinder or something. And then C-3PO says, oh no, I can't translate the Sith writing because I am forbidden from translating Sith writing. So now the movie's got to take us to another planet where C-3PO has got to... They've got to get a character to hack C-3PO so that he can read the Sith dagger and send them to the planet. And it's just like... This movie gives itself so much to do, and yet it invents time-killing devices. It's just, why are you doing that? Oh yeah, and of course when they get to this planet to hack C-3PO so that he can read the Sith dagger and send them to the planet of the Sith, of course there's this moment where apparently, oh, my memory will get wiped if I do this, and it acts as if they're about to kill off C-3PO essentially, when, you know, they're not. And it's one of two times in this film where they threaten to sort of in this case, kill off a classic Star Wars character and then chicken out of it later. Because of course there's this First Order ship which takes Chewbacca, and then Rey makes the ship explode, and oh my god, Chewie's dead. And then it reveals like 2 minutes later that Chewie survived that. It's just like, wow, you couldn't even string us out for like 10 minutes? Oh my god, Chewie's dead. No, he's not. Wow, what was the point of that then? Oh god, and there's so many stupid dumb choices, like the way that when C-3PO's reading Sith, his eyes go red and his voice starts talking, or like, the planet is in this sector. And oh my god, there's this bit where Rey picks up the Sith dagger and she can hear people screaming in her head, and the screams are like stuff that you would download off Free Sound. It's just like she picks up the Sith dagger and she's going... And I was just thinking... This is one of the biggest movies of 2019. And of course, this is the point where we get the famous, we're going to write around that line that Kylo Ren said in Last Jedi, which everyone hated, about how your parents were nothing, nobody. They were junkers who sold you for drinking money. Because this is the point where Kylo Ren reveals that you are a Palpatine. And it's not technically this isn't a retcon, because in the previous film he said that her parents were nobody, but he didn't say that her grandparents were nobodies. No, Rey is related to characters from previous films, and it's all interconnected and all this fan-wanky bollocks about how can Rey use the Force if she's not directly related to a character from the original trilogy. Because this is one of the controversial points about Last Jedi, which I've never really seen eye to eye with people on. Like, I quite like the idea that someone can come from nothing and go on to be this incredibly powerful Jedi. Like, why do they have to all be related to each other? Like, I'd find that kind of inspiring as a kid, if I thought someone can come from a family of nothing and go on to become this incredibly powerful Jedi. But... no, everyone has to be related to someone from a previous film. How can Rey use the Force if she's not related to someone with Force powers? And I know that some people would say, oh, you know, this could be interesting too. You know, Rey is related to the most evil Sith in the galaxy, and it's about her, you know, fighting against her heritage. But the thing is, that's just the plot of Return of the Jedi. What's the point in just doing a previous film again? Anyway, so they get to the ruins of the Death Star on this planet, right? And my favourite bit in this scene is just where they get off the spaceship and they walk over to the ruins of the Death Star, and one of the characters, I can't remember who it was, but one of the characters asks Rey, what is that? And Rey says, it's the Death Star. It's a bad place from an old war. Wow, beautiful poetry there. The sad man looked at the red cup. Oh god, and it's at this point where I haven't even mentioned the Finn stuff in this film. So here we get introduced to this band of former stormtroopers, and we got this really shit scene where Finn is talking to this former stormtrooper lady about having been a stormtrooper before, and it's implied that these two characters now get together because they have approximately one thing in common. It's just like, you were a former stormtrooper? Oh my god, I was a former stormtrooper as well. Let's have a fuck now. Finn is so poorly served by this film. Like, he doesn't even get to tell Rey that he has the hots for her, after it's implied that he's about to say that before they're about to die. And then he just sort of gets cast off with this really shit scene. Like, throughout this entire bit on the planet with the ruins of the Death Star, I wasn't even thinking about how the Sith dagger has been made to have this pointy thing come out that points them to the place where the Sith Wayfinder is. I don't know, maybe it's magnetically attracted to it by the Force or something. I was just thinking about how shit the writing is. Anyway, so they get the Sith Wayfinder, and then there's more scenes of... Like, a formula in this film is just Charlie from Lost asks a question. Poe responds with a piece of exposition. Repeat 32 times, credits. And this was actually the first point in this film where I spotted Rose, who really should have had a lot more screen time. Like, I seriously don't understand. She had so much screen time in Last Jedi, and suddenly she's nowhere to be seen in this film. Oh, and this is also the point where R2-D2 restores C-3PO's memory, so that sacrifice was suddenly rendered meaningless. Oh yeah, and the scene where Rey, who's now seen this vision of her wearing Sith robes and with a red lightsaber, she goes back to the planet that Luke was on in Last Jedi, and she's like burning all these Jedi texts in a massive fire or something, and she chucks her lightsaber into the fire, and then Force Ghost Luke appears, and he catches the lightsaber, and he goes, "A Jedi's weapon deserves more respect." Translation of this scene, it literally just says, you know that last movie? No. And okay, I like Last Jedi a lot. I'm going to hold up my hand and say I like Last Jedi a lot. But the thing that pissed me off about this scene wasn't even it basically just giving Last Jedi a middle finger. It was just, okay, so Force Ghost Luke can interact with the physical world, and he also then uses the Force to raise his X-Wing out of the swamp. And I was just like, is Force Ghost Luke even actually dead? I mean, yeah, Force Ghost Yoda interacted with the physical world in Last Jedi as well, and it was shit when that happened. See, I can criticise Last Jedi, alright? I'm not one of those fans. I know it's not perfect. Obey the rules of the Force Ghosts. They are there for exposition purposes only. Anyway, so they get to Exegol, and then the movie just stays there for the next half hour. I have to admit, I wasn't really paying that much attention to the scenes where Rey is facing off against Palpatine, because I was just thinking, okay, so Palpatine is Rey's grandfather, but who was Rey's grandmother? I mean, I'm guessing it's supposed to be because, you know, Palpatine can make people. Like, as you know, there was that scene in Revenge of the Sith where he's implying that he made Anakin because there's this force power to be able to make life or something. But until someone explains who Rey's grandmother is, I'm going to pretend it was that thing that did that song at the beginning of the remastered version of Return of the Jedi. And if you would like to read my slash fiction wherein that thing from Return of the Jedi and Palpatine start fucking, then you can click in the link in the description. Speaking of fanfiction, this whole thing looks and sounds like fanfiction. It's like, okay, so Palpatine is sucking the forced stuff out of Rey and Ben with his hands, and it regenerates his hands. It just made me laugh. And it's like, so Palpatine can clone himself, but he can't clone himself perfectly. He has to clone himself as this sort of decaying, rotting monster body. And he needs to get the Force stuff out of Rey and Ben to regenerate himself properly. It's like, what am I watching? Anyway, so they kill Palpatine, which isn't that what he wanted. But it takes so much energy that now Rey has died. And then Ben gets up and comes over because he's good now. And he resurrects Rey. So it's like, it goes from Rey is dead, oh my god, to Rey is alive, yay, triumphant. But then that sucks all the life out of Ben, so oh my god, Ben's dead. It just goes from bleak to triumphant to bleak again in about 60 seconds, and it just does not work at all. Of course, I'm skipping over the kiss, which has been poked fun of to death already, and you know, I don't want to get into that. You know, Daisy Ridley and Adam Driver are really good actors, and they gave it their all, and so they did an on-screen kiss, and it didn't work. Just, it's alright, okay, let them have this one. And it was that kiss that just got me thinking, okay, what if we go through this entire film, which, you know, makes no sense, and is full of plot contrivances, and is going to make people sat there thinking, is this a fake movie? Is this a joke? But what if, so Rey is dead, and Ben comes over and goes, oh my god, Rey is dead, and resurrects her, and triumphant, and then they start kissing each other. I just thought while they were in the middle of this kiss, what if they then started ripping each other's clothes off right there on screen, and started like properly like fucking each other, and it goes like really over the top pornographic, and the entire Star Wars saga ends on a cum shot. And we zoom into the cum, and we see one of the sperm has got Princess Leia's haircut bun things. So that implies that the saga does go on. The Skywalkers continue into the next generation. So yeah, that is how I would make Rise of Skywalker better. Make the last 10 minutes entirely pornographic. Because hell, that made more sense than the actual ending, which is Rey going to the ranch that Luke lived on with his aunt and uncle on Tatooine, which she has no personal connection to whatsoever, and burying the old lightsabers there for some reason, and then just saying to a random incidental character, I've decided to call myself Skywalker now. That is the completion of my character arc. And then it shows what colour lightsaber would Rey have? Oh, she's got a yellow lightsaber. Oh, that's different. I wonder if they're going to do a character in the next film with a lightsaber that's pink with orange polka dots. That is the lightsaber that would be used by Mr. Blobby. Anyway, so that's pretty much all my thoughts on Rise of Skywalker. It's a mess, a complete fucking mess, but it's funny. It's a really funny film. And you know, there are some bits of it that kind of work. I was thinking as I was watching it, if they delayed this by like, say, a year, then maybe it could have been good. Because it does wear its production issues on its sleeve, and I could tell before it was coming out that it was probably going to suck, because if you're hearing about behind the scenes issues before a film comes out, you kind of know it's gonna be bad. Because just think, it's Hollywood here, they're gonna want to spin things to make things sound like they're going as well as possible. If you're hearing about production issues before a film's come out, you know that something's gone wrong and it's probably gonna suck. Not always, and you know, I want films to be good, generally. It's nice when they are, because then I could be rooting for all the people behind it, trying to make the best of a bad situation, and oh my god, surprise, it was actually good after all, but typically, if production issues are made public, it's probably gonna suck. I had more fun with it the second time round though. Maybe part of my issues with it the first time round were I mostly just saw it as them trying to shuffle off and distance themselves from The Last Jedi, and I like Last Jedi, so I don't know, I was kind of bitter about that, but it's only really that one scene which kind of sticks a middle finger up at the previous film. And of course it is a massive step backwards in that it's mostly just composed of nostalgia baiting and recycling elements from previous films. But you know, it killed 2.5 hours of my time, and I've got a lot of that now. So much time. To kill some of your time, why not click like on this video and subscribe to my channel and watch all of my other videos. Keep watching forever. Anyway, see you next time everybody. Bye.